You got a nice looking car here, buddy. It'd be a real shame if something were to happen to this. I think you're gonna need a little protection. Welcome to VTEC Academy. You're about to get schooled. One of my biggest fears is racing is my car catching on fire. That's
not like
the rolling doesn't bother me.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've already captured.
Yeah. Catching on fire actually bothers me more.
Yeah.
So we're going to install a fire system. So you have this fire system from Lifeline.
Yep.
Give me some information about this.
You've had Ravi on the show from
Yes.
We Don't Lift.
Mm-hmm.
So went over to talk to Ravi about being a little safer. And so there's this Lifeline company makes systems for around the world. And they really make two types of systems. Mm-hmm. You've got like kind of that water foam based, and then you got what this is, and this is VTEC. So it's kind of a modern day version of what they used to use in server rooms and that, but the problem with that stuff is it sucks all the oxygen out, and that's not good for people.
Yeah.
Right? So this stuff doesn't do that. You can have this shot right on top of you and you're okay. But the beauty of it is it leaves no film. So it smothers the fire, puts it out like that, but it doesn't leave any residual films behind, so there's no cleanup. And
Interesting.
Some people don't know that those fire extinguishers, those chemicals are corrosive. So, you got your fire out, but on a system where it dumps it into your interior as well, now you could have electrical issues or all kinds of other issues. And a car like this that still has some interior, carpet and a dash, then you're trying to get it out of that as well. So this is what what Ravi recommended, and I spoke to the people at Lifeline with a few other questions, and they highly recommended it for this type of application.
So what is this price-wise compared to the other system?
So this was $700 versus about $400.
Okay. So yeah, not quite twice as expensive, but a lot better for a full interior car that you actually daily drive and don't want, and it's a classic, so we don't want to,
right.
We don't want the cure to be killing the patient.
Exactly,
so.
Yeah. And with this system, because of the nature of the gas, the tank is smaller.
Okay.
So in applications where you have less room, I watched a ton of videos, guys with very small cars using this because it doesn't take up a lot of space.
Right.
Where the other system actually has a larger tank for the same amount of suppression.
Right.
So you get a I mean, you can see, I mean, this thing is tiny. It's smaller than a football. But their kit, they have a really good kit, thought out very well. Like their mounting bracket, for example, has anti-sub tabs on it. So
no matter which orientation you do it, if you get sideways, you get side hit, it doesn't eject it out.
It's not going to shoot out. And then their tank actually, I don't know if you can hear it. You hear that?
Oh, so it goes to the low point regardless.
Regardless. So it works in any position. So like they always talk about, if you end up some weird cockeyed
even if you were
angle,
cornering and had it on, it would
doesn't
still,
matter.
Gravity would be helping you out.
Yep. And then the system comes with, you can get electronic actuate, all kinds of fancy stuff. This is their, quote, basic for this VTEC 360 system. Comes with two poles.
One for the driver, one for the safety crew.
Yep. Comes with your stickers. Comes with 24 feet of aluminum, plastic braided, so easy to bend, easy to cut. They even give you a sheathing, a fire resistant sheathing.
So just real quick about this, because it's plastic coated, it's probably a lot more difficult to kink it. So you probably don't need to use a bender to bend it, or should you use a bender regardless?
Well, according to Lifeline, you can bend it by hand. You got to massage it and be gentle with it. A bender makes it easier. So I actually have a small generic bender.
Okay.
But you can certainly bend it by hand. You just got to be careful you don't get too tight of a radius because it'll
collapse it.
It'll collapse it. Instructions, which everybody reads. Some ties, the stickers. And then this is where it kind of gets, so if you look on the tank, we've got
two outlets.
Two outlets, right? So you've got one that's meant to go into the interior of the car, one that's meant to go into the engine bay. And so then you have, this would be on your interior line. So whichever one you use comes up here, tees, and you go to your two interior nozzles. And they have a different spray pattern on the interior nozzle. So that would go to your interior. And then you have a bulkhead to go through your bulkhead if you don't have a spot or
through the firewall.
And everything is these quick connects.
Right.
So if you need to take it apart, you can, which also makes it easy then, because when you're fitting things, you can fit it all. And actually what they recommend doing is fitting everything. Don't put this on yet. Don't put your clamps on yet. Then just pop it loose. Use a 13 millimeter, push against it, and it pops right out. And then the final piece, then you go through your bulkhead or your firewall to your engine bay. And so it has a 4 type. So you got your inlet, and then you have 3 nozzles for your bay. And again, you'll notice that the nozzles are very different in shape and the way they spray out.
Right.
So their pattern is different. So yeah, it's a complete system. The only things I got beyond it didn't come with mounting hardware. So I got some 6 millimeter bolts. I found this, the dirt track rules changed not too long ago, and it's requiring now that they use
A fire system
for like your outlaw cars and stuff. And one of those companies actually came up with a roll bar mount.
Nice.
And I was trying to figure out, where do I want? And again, because it's kind of a street car still, you don't want to tempt somebody on the outside of the car to walk by and pull that thing. So I found this roll bar mount and tested it. I'm going to put it right by where I would, because if safety crews come up, they're going to come to the driver.
Right.
And they would see that the handle's right there. And I'll put a sticker on the window, sticker on the roll bar. So I got that, and then you got to remove your pin before your track day. So I got the super nerdy remove before flight off Amazon. So it pretty much gives you everything you need to put a system in your car.
I noticed you had these two vacuum caps. Interesting. You were basically wanted to cap off the end of the line, so when you're pushing it through, you're not jamming dirt into the end of the line.
If you've got to fish it under some carpet or fish it through something, just to kind of keep crud out. And then the only other thing you needed is they recommend some heat shrink. So on the end where you cut it, put a little heat shrink on there. Brought some of that. And then you need some material to make brackets for the nozzles. I've seen some videos where people just right off the end of the hose, they've got a nozzle. And just hanging there. And the people at Fireline point out that this is coming out at a lot of pressure, and all that's going to do is whip like a fire hose. So you need to make, and that's why they make it like a bulkhead fitting. It's meant to, go through something and bolt in place. So.
Well, you brought some aluminum. I have plenty of aluminum here.
I brought some L aluminum and some straight aluminum.
Okay.
Figuring, it can make 2 different types of brackets, and see what is needed.
Well,
and then these are obviously 2 different lengths, right?
Right.
Because this is intended to maybe go all the way up to the front, but you can cut them to length. That's what's nice, is they made these. So
Good. Basically, you pull the wire out, cut it wherever you want it, stick the wire back through, and then cut the wire to length after you feed it through. We probably should talk a little bit about the layout. Where do you want your nozzle set up? Set up the brackets first, and then start laying tube down after that.
Yeah. And so I got some ideas on, like, starting with the engine bay. Again, the instructions, they outline kind of where it should be, but you also have to look at your bay. If it was an engine and it has lots of space around it, that gas has to flow. So my thoughts are about putting one back here somewhere, maybe,
Well, you want one at the header.
Yep.
Because that's a heat source for a fuel problem. You want one where there is fuel possibly spraying onto something hot. The third one, I'm not even sure where you would want to put that one.
Yeah, so this was kind of my ideas after looking around. We've got a bolt right here, So if we had one sitting here, spraying right at the engine or down towards this, it's going to bathe this whole area where oil and heat is. The second one I was thinking over on this side someplace, shooting at this area. Again, you're bathing the header, the hottest part, but also bathing this void here. And then maybe having one over here somewhere that's shooting straight across to where this fuel rail is. You've got some heat. So trying to bathe across here, because the problem is you put one here, there's just so much stuff, it's not going to have a chance to disperse.
Got it. Okay.
So those are some ideas I had. So 3, kind of one at this angle, one at that angle, and one somewhere over there shooting this away.
Well, it looks like we've got some places where we might have some bolt holes already. So,
yeah, and even, we've got, I don't know what these are. We got some up here. Oh, sorry, Aaron. So the idea too is you don't want them down low, too low. That gas will fall.
Got it. So you want it to run down.
So you want it to hit and then be able to
run down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a foam, right?
No, it's just gas.
Oh, it's just gas. Okay.
It's 100% gas. There is no foam at all.
So, okay. And the hoods are going to be on the car, so it will go down is what it will
go
do.
down. Yep.
All right.
Yeah. So having it shoot kind of in this area, obviously, like you said, the header area, having it come, more at that zone. That's your heat source, right? And it's kind of funny talking to some people. They were talking about the two types of fires, oil and gas. Mm-hmm. And I talked to several people and they're like, gas is probably the least of your concern fire, which is interesting because they're like, you turn off your fuel pump, supply is dropped, it burns off really quick.
Sure.
Oil, on the other hand, coats and tends to burn longer. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of interesting.
So let's talk about that for a second. If you're going to get a oil fire, this is how it's likely going to happen. You don't have external oil on this, you only have it inside. So a rod through the block would cause your hot oil to then come out onto the back of the header. So you want to make sure that you have two fairly close to the header spraying towards the back of the block so that particular fire is less likely to happen. Right. Again, your gas fire is a problem. Now, if you were unfortunately rendered unconscious because of a hard hit or something like that, you do want something spraying onto the car because the engine or pump may continue to run as you're sitting there. So let's do one. Let's get two down towards the header. At the header and the block. Yep. And then because the header just basically follows the block, and then we'll have one over here that goes to the gas generally.
We can have one hitting because our fuel system, it's all right here.
Well, the two that are down by the block are going to take care of the fuel system here. So the other one needs to basically take care of the fuel system as it comes around the corner. And then inside, how do you want to do it inside? I mean, a lot of times people will do it on the steering column, firing straight on the underside of the steering column, firing straight at the driver. Is that what you want to do?
Well, so I looked at that. This is a very small car.
Yes, it is.
And one of the things they talked about is that you should have it hitting you between the knees and the bottom of your chest.
Okay.
There's actually a video of someone deploying this system, and it sprayed her in the face. There was two nozzles, both were faced at her, and it sprayed her straight. It looks like it in the video. She had to drop her shield, and they said, you don't want it, because if your shield's up, you don't want to think about that. And you don't want to blind yourself with freezing cold gases. So I've got two thoughts. All right, so there's two thoughts here. So we have this space here that's for cassettes. Yeah. Back before people understood what that was.
You don't have any more cassettes?
I don't have it.
Okay.
I do have one Beastie Boys cassette in the 85. So I thought, I've got that angle material, trim these little pieces off. You could put the nozzles here, one, bend it at a little angle. It could go this way, one could go this way. So that's one option.
So you're thinking possibly having people in the car with you?
Well, I'm not sure if someone's in the car with me.
You're absolutely right, because you have a passenger seat. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah. So I think actually setting them both up right there like that is actually ideal.
That's one option. The other option I thought about would be, the nice thing about this is it's out of the way. You don't have to worry about it getting smacked. The other option I thought about was up here. You can make a bracket, have one firing this way, have one firing this way.
Yeah, I think up top, it's going to be much more likely that it shoots somebody in the face. So I think keeping it down low and shooting it basically at your midsection is probably going to be by far the best idea.
The other thing I like about it down low is if fire comes into this thing, where's it coming from? To your point, there's no oil sump in here, there's no oil reservoir in the passenger compartment. It's just going to be flames that might come in from the dash or find a hole somewhere in the firewall and fill the foot void. So I think that is it'd be clean, out of the way. I don't use that for anything.
Well, just so you know, on this particular car, the fuel lines, don't they pass through the car and then come out of the firewall?
Yeah, so right here, they run along the firewall, that side, and then they go down along the frame rail on the inside.
On the inside.
Yeah,
so there is actually fuel coming through the car. But it's highly unlikely anything's going to happen with those per se, like a burst line or something like that, and have an ignition source. But still, I guess an electrical fire is probably the most logical reason it might catch on fire, but that's, again, highly unlikely. Cool. Let's get started. Let's just build brackets. Let's build brackets for...
Map out where we put them and what kind of brackets we would need.
Exactly right.
Yep.
And I'm going to take a look at the interior if you want to take a look in here and see what you think.
So the other thing we got to talk about is where this goes. So it's 5 pounds. So you'd like to have it in the lightest spot. So 2 options would be behind the passenger seat, in front of the passenger seat, or back in the hatch somewhere.
The big problem in front of the passenger seat is people kicking it.
Exactly. So I'm against that. I don't know space-wise. No, there's plenty of room.
Work real well right there.
There's plenty of room right here. Yeah, there's a ton of room right here.
Yeah.
There's more room than I thought.
So we want to bolt it down to the floor, though, not to that back wall, because there's a fuel tank back there, and you don't want to poke holes in your fuel tank.
So we can bolt it to the floor.
Yep.
I think it's easier to map out where things go when they're attached to the thing that they're going to mount to. We can come out and do 290s.
290s.
Bring them together.
And run them along there. Yeah.
We can run them through here.
Yep.
And then pop the one up.
Yeah. Just behind it.
And then run the other one up there.
Here's my plan, just to let you know. This is angled upward more. So I'm going to mount it to the top.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking too.
Okay, so I'm going to wind up cutting these out
cut
first.
Cut the rids out, and then we could, and there's a ton of space up here for like a nut
bolts
on the
and screws,
backside. Yeah,
right.
So just cut that out.
Next, we need to mount it in here.
That's the key. You got to have, they've got to be fanned flat. Same thing with those. There's room.
I can stick them in and I can curve them out and bring them around.
So that's not a new shirt?
No. This one could be the one that goes to wherever the bulkhead fitting lives.
Correct.
This one can come straight across, go to this guy.
Yeah.
The one that comes out the bottom can come down, over, and come to this guy.
Yep.
At least I have a termination point. That's the problem I'm having. I got to get my brain where these things terminating to know how long. I don't want to waste the hose.
There's actually quite a lot to this whole thing. It's a puzzle. The easy part was making the brackets to mount everything. That by far was the easiest part of the whole thing. What's going to be routing everything properly is going to be a little bit more difficult. We've got brackets to make for the pull handles.
Well, one of them, yeah.
Yeah, one of them's already made, but we're making another one. And we also have, now we're at the point where we're going to route
lines,
the line and get it through the firewall. So we decided we are going to probably use the bulkhead fitting just because it breaks it up and makes it a little bit easier to handle. So
yeah.
This fitting,
we found a home for it.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the keys, is to find where things will live. Like you said,
right.
Like figure out where the nozzles are going to live,
yeah.
And then figure out, okay, where is this going to live?
But you almost have to do it backwards. You have to go from the nozzles back to the tank, as opposed to from the tank to the nozzles. So
yeah, it's like you need to know where the tank's going to live,
yeah.
And then you got to know where the nozzles live, and then you.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's.
So anyway, still making brackets, doing fab, all fun.
Visible that way.
Yeah.
And that's what we're after.
We have installed one of the pull handles using our pretty nifty little roll bar bracket that's available from All-Star Performance, like NASCAR and dirt track stuff.
Yep.
So that's kind of cool. We built a bracket on the seat for the second handle, one operated by the driver. Our bottle has been mounted, although we're going to probably clock things a little bit differently, and we've installed the one T-handle line. And we have installed the driver and passenger fittings for the fire suppressant. For that, these will be aiming more or less at the knee and stomach of the driver and passenger. Done. You're protected.
I got my protection.
You got your protection.
Yes.
Very cool. What do you think?
Harder,
easier, more time consuming?
More time consuming than I thought, based on what some people said.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of it just depends on the type of car.
Yeah.
Race car,
Very small.
Also very small, but yeah, race car, not a lot of stuff in the way.
Yeah.
Street/race car, trying to go around, stay inside plastic panels, out of footwells where people might, hook
step
feet
on it,
step
right.
on it. I think you had some great insights with, okay, where's the bottle going to live? So we know that key component point, and then identify where the nozzles are going to go, and then build those nozzle brackets, affix them to where they're going to go.
I think some flat black paint or some satin black paint. Other than that, it looks great. So we just kind of recap. We decided where the nozzles and the bottle went first. Then we went from the nozzles back, kind of, because that made it easier to figure out where everything needed to lay. We're going to call it a day. You still have a couple things you have to do, but all in all, it's in here. And I enjoyed it. I thought that was really good. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot for checking us out again, and we'll talk to you another time. Bye.